The All Blacks all but secure quarter-final spot, steamrolling Italy 96-17 as we unpack their second biggest ever win over the Italians in Lyon. Kia ora, I'm Sherry Kinnear and this is Beyond the Game. Welcome into the New Zealand Herald's video news show. I'm joined now by News Talk ZB rugby commentator Elliot Smith. Well, we waited 13 long days for this game. Was it worth the wait, Elliot?
100% it was from an All Blacks perspective, Cherie. They were dominant. They demolished Italy in a manner that I don't think anyone would have expected. They were ruthless from pretty much the get-go right through to almost the final whistle. I mean, when you're haggling over a couple of tries in the second half, when you've scored more than nearly 100 points yourself, you've got to be pretty happy with what you turned in from an All Blacks perspective. As
you say, yeah, they were dominant in all areas, and Italy's head coach Kieran Crowley said after the match that it was a glorified training run for the All Blacks, so that pretty much says it all. But did the All Blacks, for you, improve enough in all the areas that they needed to?
100%. Now, Italy were poor, but at the same time, the All Blacks didn't allow them to get into the contest. They, as I said, were ruthless from the opening minute, and the All Blacks just absolutely tore their set piece apart. They lost 5 scrums on their own feed. They lost a number of line-outs, so the All Blacks just demolished the areas that they really needed to. They were quick at the breakdown. We'd been warned that the Italians had really good ruck speed. We didn't see any of that because they were simply starved of ball for, especially the first half. They only had 30% possession. The All Blacks had 70. So they didn't allow Italy to get in the contest. They were ruthless, and this is exactly what we wanted to see from the All Blacks. There have been a lot of questions around them after that Italy game and whether they were still with the top 3 nations in the world. It was, as I say, a ruthless performance. It was against Italy, but from what we saw tonight, there'll be some confidence, I think, quietly in that All Blacks camp.
Big night for the team, but also a big night for Sam Whitelock. Tonight he became the most capped All Black of all time, and we spoke to him as well as Mark Talea after the game.
Yeah, the performance was great. I think the best thing about it is we were pretty consistent over the 80 minutes. Like a game like that can drop away at times, but I thought the guys that got out there later in the game actually added a lot to it. They brought a lot more energy, and it's always nice to see someone like Dane Coles score a couple of tries, and bring that energy, and that's what we needed from the guys that came off the bench.
I felt like we got to respect the Italians. They're real passionate side, and they're proud nation, and I felt like those times in the game where it could have went their way, but I felt like we did real good at taking away their strengths. We tested them in areas I feel like other countries haven't tested them, so I felt like we did real good in that area. So I felt like we did real well just to nullify them and get our ball into our hands and start playing footy like we usually play. So yeah.
We're always trying to improve and play the rugby that we want to, and I think tonight we definitely did some of the things that we've always wanted to do, but it just shows that it's very hard to do. You can never just go out there and expect it to happen. You've got to go out there and make it happen.
Well, on the other hand, it wasn't such a great night for Italy, and so much was said of this side this week. Many believed that if Italy were ever to beat the All Blacks, this would be the team to do so. Elliot, what went so wrong for them?
Well, yeah, exactly. Nothing went right, to be honest, Cherie. They couldn't quite get, as I said, the set piece working, and when you can't get that working, you're on the back foot throughout. But the All Blacks just suffocated them. They didn't allow them the quick ball they wanted. They didn't allow them clean scrum ball, clean line-out ball. Everywhere the Italians looked tonight, there was an All Black pinching the ball. There was an All Black rumbling through them at scrum time. There was an All Black pushing through them at the set piece, and even when the Italians had those rare chances on attack, more often than not they were swallowed up by the All Blacks defence. They scored a couple of tries, but they were merely consolation, if you can really call it that, when you've been pummeled to the tune they were tonight. Really disappointing from Italy. We've got to give the All Blacks plenty of credit, but this is actually not a bad Italian team that was put out tonight, and I think you've got to give the All Blacks plenty of credit for the way they're able to tear the Italians apart.
Now, I know we don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, but especially after tonight's game, that match up against Ireland in the quarterfinals is looking more and more likely. Without, getting too far ahead and picking anything this far in advance, do you think at all, though, that will be potentially in the back of the minds of the All Blacks?
I don't think so, and they were quick to point out at the media conference that they're not thinking about that as yet, and to be fair, they're not actually in the quarterfinals as yet. They still need to beat Uruguay next week to make sure of that spot with all the permutations that can go on. Italy could come out and beat France next week, as unlikely as it seems, and potentially knock the French out of it. So I think the short turnaround to next week will help the All Blacks. They won't have too much time to ponder this or that around quarterfinals. They're straight into the next task against Uruguay on Friday morning, which I think will help. Quick turnaround, bank that quarterfinal spot, and then we can think about the Irish or whoever awaits, because Ian Foster was quick to say that the Scots could have a say about that next weekend.
Very interesting for me, and as you say, still another big week of games ahead. Before we go though, let's take a quick look at Pool A as things stand. The All Blacks now sit second on the table, picking up a bonus point to total 10 behind France on 13. It's a quick turnaround with New Zealand's next game under a week away against Uruguay to round off the pool play. Well, that's it from us here. Thanks so much, Elliot, for your time. We're signing off from OL Stadium in Lyon. We'll catch you next time on Beyond the Game. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel to stay up to date with all the latest news from the New Zealand Herald. Click the subscribe button below or check out one of the videos here, and head over to nzherald.co.nz for more details on these stories and more.